Hi, everybody, and welcome. It's another episode of Office Hours. We meet here every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, and I'm glad you guys are all here. I have a couple things I want to talk about. First, I'm here all by myself today, which feels a little weird lately because we've always had a guest or someone else to join me, but scheduling being what it is, I get to fly solo today, and I think that's just fine. On top of that, I do have some guests coming up that I'd like to share with you. So let's talk about that first. And then I'll say hello to everybody that's here and we can kind of get rolling. So the first thing is, I know many of you have heard the utterance, "take me to the moon," right? You can say that with your wake word, and it'll give you a bunch of information about what's going on with the NASA Artemis launch. For those of you that don't know, we have an installation of Alexa on the shuttle, and we're doing a bunch of really cool things once it gets launched, but it has been scrubbed twice. So it was supposed to launch last Monday, and then it was supposed to launch on Saturday, and both of those got scrubbed due to something with a hydrogen tank on the shuttle. And certainly, you wouldn't want to go into space if your fuel tanks aren't working properly. So it's been scrubbed. My understanding is that the next possible attempt is September 19th, but that somewhere between September 19th and October 4th, they expect it to be able to go. So if you guys are interested in space, if you're interested in Alexa and some of the cool things that they're doing with Artemis, I would recommend talking to your device and just say, "Take me to the moon." So that is number one. But I also mentioned that I don't have any guests today, but I do have some upcoming guests that I want to talk about. And this will be especially interesting for you if you care about these topics deeply. The first one, I have one of my teammates, Sid, coming on, and he's going to be talking about in-skill purchasing, but specifically paid skills and Alexa skill deals. That's going to be next week. So if you guys aren't familiar with those topics, in-skill purchasing is pretty simple. There's a bunch of different ways that you can sell products inside your voice experiences. Paid skills are the ability to make your skill require payment before use. And so the user would have to, let's say your skill is $1.99. The user would have to pay that $1.99. They can do that with their voice. And once they've paid the $1.99, then they have access to your content. And then finally, we have Alexa skill deals. And this is especially important as we head into the big holiday season, and it allows you to set discounts on the things that you're selling. So that's another cool thing that we are continuing to kind of move and innovate as we talk about the cool things going on with in-skill purchasing. So Sid will be here next Tuesday, September 13th, and we'll be talking with him about that. So bring your questions about not only those topics, but anything really related to ISP. I'm sure he'd be happy to chat. And then on September 20th, I've got two folks coming to talk about voice-forward account linking. So any of you that have battled with or struggled with some of the challenges that are just present in building account linking and OAuth and all the other things that go into it, Tariq and Alfredo will be here on September 20th to talk about voice-forward account linking, which is the ability to do account linking with just the user's voice. So just a quick layout of what's upcoming. I want to make sure you guys knew about that, but let's get into the comments and questions. And I see our friend Revital's here on Twitch. The first one is, and this was a tricky one for me to read, but it sounds to me like what you're asking is, I have an Echo Show 8, and if I'm taking it somewhere else, can my Alexa Show work with the Wi-Fi in the place that I'll be? And the answer is absolutely yes. When you got your device, it didn't know what Wi-Fi it was going to be living in. And so all you need to do, actually on any Echo Show device, this is actually a really simple way to do this. I can demo up here, is that if I just swipe down from the top of my screen, I get a whole bunch of settings that appear. And one of the things in here is actually settings. And if I click on settings, this takes me to the main settings screen. In here, there's network. And on this screen, I can then find whatever network it is that I'm looking for in the place that I happen to be. So for those of you that didn't know that, that's an easy way to set up your, let me just go back home, your Wi-Fi on an Echo Show. And the reason this is important, it's one of those things that once you make things easier for people, sometimes they forget the how or the why of what went into it. And so for those of you that aren't aware of this, we have had for a little while what we call frustration-free setup available on Echo devices. And the idea is that once you have an Amazon smart device in your house, it could be a smart plug or an Echo or whatever. Once you have one of those in your house, you have the option to say, yes, allow future devices in my house to share the Wi-Fi information so that you don't have to go through and set each one up individually. And as a result of this, a lot of people get a second device or a third device, and they start to forget that, like, oh yeah, I have to set all that stuff up, but it's doing it all automatically for me. And so if you haven't set up your device because it did it for you automatically, that is the place that you can go to get all your stuff set up. Revital also had another question, which was, I heard of a Star Trek gadget. What is it? And I did a little research before we started here. This question was asked before the show began. And I couldn't find anything specific around a Star Trek gadget that is related to Alexa in any way. Lots and lots of cool toys and things out there for Star Trek in general. But the only real references I found to Star Trek, other than kind of our announcements about our vision for what we want Alexa to be, looks a lot like the Star Trek computer, is that one of the wake words you can use, for all of you that are familiar with wake words, is that you can use the word computer, which is a reference to how they talk to the Star Trek computer. So, Revital, I wasn't sure exactly what you were referring to there, but hopefully that's a little bit of information if you didn't already know that. Okay, so I want to say welcome to Habuma1 and Brian Tarbox, and it is Droopy Now and Hawk 2000. Luis Diaz Vegas here on YouTube. Kevin Evans is here. Good to see you, Kevin. Frank is here on YouTube, and Frank has a question. Is it possible for an Alexa skill developer to create an Echo Show 15 widget? Are there any detailed docs? Boy, that is a fantastic question, Frank. So there was a time. So we announced widgets, I believe, at Alexa Live 2021. And then we announced that the widgets were coming, but we didn't really talk a lot about them. But obviously, this was when they were kind of formally launched, is when the Echo Show 15 came out. And that was the first time that we actually got to see widgets in action. Now, it has been rolled out to other devices. If you have an Echo Show 10 or an Echo Show 8, I believe they're available on those as well. But the question Frank is asking, which is a very honest question, is how do I build a widget for devices? And there was a time where we had it in developer preview. Let me see if I can find it. I'm going to find this easily. There was a time when there was a developer preview and you were able to build your individual widgets. Now, the thing that I found a page here, but I don't know that this is what I was looking for. Yeah, so I do have a doc here. I'll grab this. This is from our Alexa design guide. So let me post this in the chat. What I have noticed, though, is that there was no mention of widgets at Alexa Live 2022, and I haven't seen anything specific around widgets since. And so I don't have a really good answer for you about where the detailed docs are or how I deploy one or any of that kind of stuff. But the design guide does have a really good kind of how should you think about the layout of them. But even those pages don't have any obvious links to me that would take me to like the tech docs or anything. Let me see if I can find try one more thing here. Yeah, we announced these things September of 2015. And I don't see. Yeah, it feels like maybe they've taken a step back. It's unclear to me, so I don't want to speculate. But it doesn't look like there is an easy way to build widgets today. I was aware of that, but I was hoping maybe I was going to find something that convinced me that wasn't true. So my answer to you is I believe that that is limited right now to a very small subset of people that got into a developer preview, which is no longer taking applicants. And my expectation is that at some point there's going to be some new announcements about widgets and their availability and capabilities and things like that. All right. I see Brian Tarbox. I've seen some of his conversation in Slack, and he seems very frustrated. So let's see what Brian has to say. He says, FYI, it's a week later and still no details on my skill certification failure due to shopping actions. No idea why finding out why is so hard. I also have a ticket trying to see why my send to phone fails with the ever helpful request is invalid. The CERT team and the SDK team could really both use some verbosity. Yes. Brian, I don't have a lot of great answers for you here, and I wish that I did. I know that there are a number of reasons and policies and all sorts of things behind the scenes, some of which can be shared publicly, some can't. And so in many cases, their hands may even be tied because there are reasons why things are the way they are. At least this has been my personal experience. But when it comes to explaining or describing that to the public, why it is the way it is, that's not a publicly shareable answer. And so oftentimes the CERT team will have their hands tied. They're like, we want to explain what this thing is. And they're like, well, you can't. You have to be a little more vague. And I know that is not a very customer-centric, developer-friendly policy. And it's something that I push back on regularly. But I don't have a better answer for you today. So all I can do is empathize. I know that for your case specifically, I did escalate that. And I think they reached out to you. It probably just wasn't the resolution you were looking for. So I'll look into that and see if there's anything else I can come up with. But I don't like anyone having to wait a week or longer just to get a resolution on something. So I'll see what I can do. Dana Voice is here. Trey Last is here as always. Welcome. A LinkedIn user that I don't have their name for says, "Hi Jeff, why do Prime videos only play for a short time before turning off on the Echo Show 15? That's a great question. I wasn't aware that was happening. That's much more on the video team side, or certainly on the consumer side of this business. So I don't watch a lot of Prime videos on my Echoes at all. I mean, I'm in my house most of the time, and I have televisions that have Prime Video available, so that's generally where I go. But I don't know the answer to your question. I didn't know that was an issue. Let's take a look. I could try to... Alexa, open Prime Video. Oh, you're muted. Which one did I just open it on? Alexa, stop. Alexa, open Prime Video. Let's see if we can get this to work at all.
Here's Prime Video.
Sweet. All right, so I'm just going to pick Amazon Original, maybe. And we'll choose... What am I not going to get a copyright strike for? That's really where I'm worried here. But we'll just... try this one. This is just a trailer. But it said you said just a short time. What is a short time to you? We'll see what we get out of this.
Don't get too excited, fellas. She keeps her clothes on.
I want to be big. The biggest thing out there. Tits up. Tits up.
Well, that's great. That's
Yes.
just the content I was looking for.
Best, yeah. Here we come. Yeah. You ready?
Alexa.
Yes.
No.
Stop.
Do it. Okay.
Well, that's awfully loud. Apologize for that. So I don't know why it's turning off, and I'm not... At least it's not in the first few seconds turning off. So, I would reach out to customer service, honestly, because this doesn't feel like it's an Alexa developer-y thing, but let me know. Maybe I'm misreading. Let's go back to home. Okay. Swaggy Mongui says, "Hello, I read on the Amazon.com website that you can make Alexa recognize personalized sounds to trigger routines. You have to tell it to learn a sound, but it doesn't work for me. Can you try it at home?" I can. I'm going to put that off for just a second, but let's think about... I didn't think you could train it to just have your own sounds. I know there's a set of sounds that they will let you train on. Let's see. If I go to the Alexa app, where would I even do that? Would it be under routines? Things to try is too vague. It would probably be under like Alexa Guard, I would think. I am not finding anything easy. Routines, and no, I don't. I'm not finding anything obvious here, Swagui Magui. I know that it can do, routines can do things with specific sounds, like breaking glass, baby crying, dog barking, that kind of stuff. But I'm not aware, at least I haven't heard about the ability to like provide a specific sound. Let's say you have a specific sound for like a home alarm system or something like that. And you want your devices to recognize that. I haven't seen that. So if you can share a link, you said you found it on the Amazon website. I'd love to know more about that, but I just haven't seen that myself. Okay. Continuing on. Sklarface says, good morning. Tiamir is here on YouTube saying hello. Dana Voice says there's 2 non-Amazon widgets. Comedy Central just added one, and there's a cookbook that has one. And there's a third one in Italy that's also a cooking skill, Trade Last ads. Yeah, very early on, a few got certified, and then I feel like they kind of took a step back. So Trade Last mentions widgets is still in developer preview. He's not sure why it's in the design guide. I agree. It feels like only production level general availability stuff should be in our docs and guides, but I guess they passed on that. Okay, so Swagui has provided me a link. Now I have to copy that link somehow. Let's try that. And take this link. That's interesting. The link you just gave me doesn't work. Oh, because I missed some letters. Okay. F67LX. It missed on the end. Interesting. Okay. So you can tell your Echo device to learn a sound. So you actually talk to the device itself, and it will give you prompts for Alexa to learn that sound. So you're probably going to need to be able to recreate it on your own, and then create an Alexa routine to select that sound. Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay. I don't have any sounds. I was thinking if there's a way I could. Do I have anything? Oh, I do have something that makes a sound. We'll see if I can do this consistently. So I have a horn. You can see it here. Some might refer to this as a vuvuzela. We could try this, see what it does. Alexa, learn a sound.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Well, that's fun. Did I say that wrong? Okay. Alexa, learn a new sound.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Well, I think that answers my question, Swagly. It does not work on my side. And I know you guys really wanted to hear me play this, so I apologize. We're going to have to save that for another time. I can't just give away all the fun on every episode, so we're going to have to wait until we can actually do that. Frank wants to know, is it possible for an Alexa skill to know which device a user is speaking to? A bedroom Echo Show versus a kitchen Echo Show. Yes and no. Frank, the second part of your question kind of throws that off. So when a user talks to a device, a JSON input is created, right? That JSON document that your code receives, that JSON document carries with it a device ID. It's anonymized. You're not going to have any information about what the device is, what kind it is, any of that kind of stuff. But you're going to know that it's the same device over and over and over because you'll see the same device ID. You don't know that it's in a bedroom or anything like that. But it is possible for you to know which device they're talking to. So if the first time that a user talks to your skill, you will get a device ID. And you could store that in your database alongside your user and say, hey, here's a list of their device IDs. Again, they're meaningless numbers. If you shared with someone else, no one would, like, there's no PII here. But this long anonymized device ID is unique to you, the user, and that device. I'm sorry, your skill, the user, and the device. So if another skill maker wanted to build a skill and they had the same user and the user used the same device, all of those IDs would be totally different, but they all map back to the same stuff. You just can't see that. So yes, you could even ask, like, hey, what do you call this device? And they could say bedroom. And then you'd be like, oh, okay. Let's say you wanted to build something crazy, like a in your house scavenger hunt. and they had to go set up all their individual devices, and then you'd say, okay, you have 15 seconds to get to the bedroom echo and say the word elephant. So they run to their device and they say, open your skill, and they say elephant, and you could then be like, yes, you're in the bedroom, because they've already set that, they've already told you that's what it's called. Yes, that's possible, but I don't know. For most use cases, you're probably not going to see anything beyond I recognize that they have spoken to this device before. That's where I see most people kind of stop. Dana Voice says he uses cough to trigger a routine. That's pretty cool. And so Habuma says, yeah, same, but my wife wants it to respond to a sneeze by saying bless you or some such thing. Unfortunately, sneeze isn't an option yet. Yeah, that would actually be pretty, I think it would be funny for me. Like if I'm in my house and I sneeze and Alexa says, bless you, that would be pretty funny. But I think if I had guests over and they sneezed, I don't know that they would find that funny. Maybe. But that would be pretty great. Okay. So Andy Muncie has a question about Alexa shopping. Can I insert a category instead of an ASIN? So for those of you that aren't familiar with this topic, Alexa shopping actions allows you to specify an ASIN, which is an Amazon identification number. And you can see those all over the Amazon.com website. And so you can just say, hey, I want to sell this user this product, and use the ASIN. And then Alexa handles like the transaction and all that. And so what Andy's asking is, can I specify a category instead? So I'd like to perhaps give the user a list of popular cookies as opposed to just a very specific kind of cookies with an ASIN. So no, I don't believe that you can do that today. I think this is a good feedback idea, something I would add to user voice. And this is my opportunity to talk about user voice for just a second. For those of you that may not be aware, we have a website you can go to. It's alexa.design/user voice. And this allows you to propose new features and capabilities for Alexa. Now, there's no guarantee that the thing you ask for is going to be built in the next month or even the year. But it's a great way for our product team to hear from all of you about the things that you're really interested in. So if Andy enters this on user voice and a bunch of the rest of you showed up and voted on it, because you can vote and say which ones are important to you, then it becomes a higher priority for the product team, because now they see that there are hundreds or thousands of people that all really want this thing. So if you're not using user voice regularly and you think of a thing like Andy just did, where I really wish Alexa could do this thing, please, please, please put it in user voice. That's a great place to do it. Okay. Let's see. Oxygen Box is proposing you could build your own clapper. For those of you that remember those commercials from the 80s, clap on, clap off the clapper. I believe those are the lyrics to their jingle. And it was a simple device that you plugged your lamp into. Think of like a smart plug, but not smart even slightly. And you plugged it into the wall, and then you plugged your lamp into the thing. And then if you clap twice, it would switch the state. So if it was off, then it would turn it on. If it was on, that would turn it off. And that was it. Okay. Dana Voice says, it's strange. Alexa Routine Kit has docs, and you can build a skill. It won't work, but you can build one. Widgets, not so much. Yeah, I do feel like that stuff was there. And so the fact that there was not a presence at this current Alexa Live makes me feel like they're tinkering, reworking something. And as a result of that, like the docs wouldn't apply, and like you'd have to work on some of that. So that is my best answer. Okay. Revital's back with a couple more questions. I always try to find myself looking for the link to this live. Is there a direct link to this live every week that I can follow? Kind of. So the first place that I would recommend you look, I don't know if I have it in here or not. If not, I'll make it. I don't have it right now. So let me just create this really quick. And then I'm pretty sure this works. I should have tested that first. I do that. It takes me to Twitch, I believe. Yeah. I'll just close that. Okay. So yes. So you can use that URL, and it will take you to the Twitch version of office hours anytime you want. So you never need to find a link or find anything dramatic. If, however, you want to watch this on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn, those do have a unique URL every single week. And so my recommendation for those is just on the YouTube channel or Facebook channel or LinkedIn channel, just subscribe to that channel and you'll get notifications when we create the event, which is usually, it's supposed to be on Thursdays for the following Tuesday. And then when we actually go live, you should also get a recommendation there. So hopefully that helps. Okay. Other questions? Okay. A little more clarification. So you were asked earlier about just using the Echo Show 8 in a different place with Wi-Fi someplace else. Can I take the Echo Show with a battery? So they bought a battery thing. It's a third-party battery base that you can get for the Echo Show 8. Can I use the Wi-Fi to operate? It says operate vehicle show. That's the part that I'm a little confused on. I don't know the answer or why the word vehicle is there. But yes, you should be able to take the Echo Show with the battery and use Wi-Fi wherever you happen to be. And that includes Wi-Fi that might be in a car or, tethered to your phone or whatever it might be. Okay, you came back to the Star Trek gadget. I don't know what you're referring to with a Star Trek gadget, so my apologies. And the last question is, how can I change the home screen for the Echo Show? Now, I've run out of words. I think you typed more than the screen would show me here. But you said, how can I change the home screen for the Echo Show? Well, I can show you that. On the device here, if you swipe down and choose settings, in here, I believe there's home content is one of the options. And in home content, you have a bunch of things that you can turn on and off. Now, I don't think you can customize it in the way that you might be describing, which is I have very specific things that I want to be there. But you can turn these individual options. There's lots of them here. You could turn all of these things off so that you only have, for example, one specific thing. The device I have in my kitchen, I have them all turned off except for my Amazon photo gallery. And inside the photo gallery, I only allow it to choose from a library of images that I've already selected. I don't want it to use every image I've ever taken. But there's a library of like 400 pictures that I've just tagged in the Amazon app that allows me to say,
I don't know that one.
All right, cool. You're getting muted. So there's a lot of images there that I want to show up on this nice big picture frame in my kitchen. And so as a result of that, it only shows those pictures on the front. And I mean, it also has a couple of widgets, right? The calendar widget and a to-do list widget. But for the most part, the whole screen is just photos. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay. Swagui Mungui says, thanks for trying. Indeed, the problem does not come from me. It's too bad that Amazon advertises something, but it does not work. Yeah, I mean, I think they think it works. So I know we were with you. I was talking about the custom sounds. This is definitely one that I'm going to look into. I don't know why it's not working. So I will have to, I'm going to go back and mark this so that I can go figure out. Yeah, there's that. And then I'll mark the link so that I can follow up on this, because they probably think it's working, and maybe there's maybe it's just down today, or who knows. That's the real challenge with a dynamic device like Alexa, is that there are so many services and so many things running that the device might be working 98%, but like this thing changed, or this thing moved a little bit, or this service just happens to be down. So like you can't do that one specific thing. But it's a portal to so many other things. It's the same way, maybe less so, but I'm thinking like if you go to a search engine, right? You can do a search engine search for some term and you find the first page and you're like, oh, that's exactly what I want. And you click on the link and it takes you to a website that's down right now. Well, is that the search engine's fault? I mean, in this case, it certainly would be our fault. This is our service, but there's lots of that kind of stuff where there just might be something in the chain somewhere that doesn't seem to be working. So we'll look into it. It's not even a thing I was aware of until you brought it up. So I'll dig in to figure out what's going on there. Another thing that happens occasionally is that docs especially get published too early. And so maybe that's a thing that's coming, because again, I was surprised. I hadn't heard of it. So maybe it's something that's coming soon, and they just accidentally published the doc. But these are all just speculation on my part. I don't actually know. Okay, this is not something that happens very often, but we're only 30 minutes into this broadcast, and I've gotten to the bottom of the question list. So I'm sure there are more, and I'm sure they will come in here. But let's see if I can finish up on what's here. Dana Voice says the Alexa routine kit is developer preview. It's a public preview. Okay. Public preview should be available to everyone, but developer previews are often a very small list of developers and companies and stuff. Oh, Revital. I maybe somebody else can help me on this. Revital is saying that the Star Trek thing is something that he's heard me talk about before. He or she, I apologize. I can't think of a Star Wars or Star Trek related thing. Phelps Inc. Asks, does preview mean it's not guaranteed to work? There's a number of things, and I don't think maybe it's my Star Wars databank. It could be. Not Star Trek, but Star Wars. That could be. Does preview mean it's not guaranteed to work? While my initial answer to that is certainly yes, I think that anything that is not general availability has some number of limitations set upon it. So, for example, developer preview is almost exclusively done by providing what we call an interest form. And in this form, you can fill it out and specify, like, what are your use cases? Why do you want to use this feature? Whatever it is. And so the product team themselves, the ones that are working on the code, generally acknowledge that their stuff is not ready for prime time, right? Not ready for everyone to use it yet, but we need some actual developers to play with it and toy with it and tell us what's working and identify any potential bugs, whatever. So that's when you see something marked as developer preview, that's generally what you should come to expect. After developer preview is usually some sort of private or public beta. And again, beta is what it is, right? It's not done, but it's close and it's usable, and we want to get people using it as much as we can. So maybe that's the stance on previews. And then once they get through the previews and the betas, then we have general availability. And GA, as it's often referred to, that is when GA is when everybody can use it all the time, right? It is officially part of the production system, and everybody should be able to use it. So anything that's in preview or beta, yes, it's possible it's not working. But I would expect a very high uptime on anything that is GA. Okay. Okay, so Revital's asking about my Star Wars thing. So I have a skill called the Unofficial Star Wars Databank. It is not complete by any means, but it the skill works, and you can ask it about the content that I've created for it. But you just ask your device to open the Unofficial Star Wars Databank. That is the thing that you were asking about. That's good. TradeLast mentioned that there is a cool new Star Trek trivia skill that's actually made by Paramount and hosted by Will Wheaton. So if you like Will Wheaton or you like Star Trek trivia, that might be a cool thing to check out. I haven't played with that yet, but I will add that to my list as well. And then I think I've made it to the end. I just want to do this to try something. I'm going to share my screen. We're just going to do that. You guys aren't seeing anything interesting. This is my second desktop. But I'm having conversations with StreamYard about what my microphone sounds like when I share my screen, and I know we've talked about this quite a bit. For any of you that may be watching right now, I'd love your feedback. Does my voice sound different now that I'm screen sharing than it did before I started screen sharing? Some people have mentioned that it sounds crackly or distorted a little bit, or maybe even has some echo. So if you guys can provide me any feedback on what it sounds like right now, I would appreciate that. Little clicks, slight crackle on Twitch. There's some audio feedback with clicks. So like when I click my mouse, that's also interesting. But I wanted to make sure that I get some solid feedback for them. So I'm going to remove my screen sharing. And now I'm assuming you probably don't hear any of those clicks or anything like that. But I went through some of our most recent episodes of Office Hours where we shared our screen. We had someone on a couple weeks ago. We were talking about APL. APL and the new Alexa Learning Lab. And so as a result of that, we were kind of playing with the Learning Lab and trying to show some things on screen, and the microphones got really, really bad. It's also interesting that you guys are saying that you're hearing it even more now, even after I've stopped screen sharing. So let me stop. I'm actually stopped screen sharing. So here's a next check. Now is it better? Does everything sound good now? Because I do feel like there's probably something to the screen sharing mechanism and what they're doing. David Curley says it's good. Okay, so sounds great now. Okay, so there's definitely something happening when I'm screen sharing. And it doesn't feel like it's my system because the guest that I had that week for the Learning Lab also had the same problem. Okay, so now it's completely gone. So this is something I'm going to talk with StreamYard about. They're the service that we use to do all of our streaming here on Twitch and YouTube and Facebook and everywhere else. But what I wanted to talk with you all about is that I have a very strong interest in getting back to doing some live coding sessions. For those of you that may recall, in 2021, I spent a ton of time. It was an hour or two almost every morning. Morning, my time is Eastern time, U.S. Eastern time. And so it would be, I'd do it from like 9 to 11 most days. And it's something that I really want to get back to. But I've been so off-put by all the feedback that I've gotten from clicking and echoing and all sorts of other stuff that I haven't wanted to venture in. And so I started a trouble ticket with StreamYard this morning, and I think what I'm going to try and do is get that resolved, figure out what it is, whether it's my system or whether what's going on, and then I would expect that I'm going to get back to doing some live coding, live streaming very, very soon, because I want to spend that time here talking with you, building stuff, playing around. It's not a formal education course or anything like that. It's just Jeff coding on camera. But it's good for me because I get to learn from all of you as I go. And it's also good for you because you may see some things that you hadn't thought of, or everybody approaches problems differently. So it's always good that way. So thank you guys all for the feedback. That was really, really helpful. And W. Giorgio said, my newest game is live, and of course I found a bug or two. Some audio isn't playing, video is lagging, and my fallback intent isn't firing. It is just closing the session. Of course, that's how it goes. Writing software is both amazing, one of the coolest things I've ever done in my whole life, and also one of the most frustrating things I've ever done in my whole life. So I totally understand, W. Giorgio. What is the name of your game, by the way? We can let people give it a roll. I just saw it. I saw the name of it this morning, but I don't want to be wrong. So if you can give that back to me, that would be great. Space Marauders. That's right. So if you want to try out W. Giorgio's game on your Echo Show, open Space Marauders and get after it. So we are at the end of the list of questions. I don't think that I missed anybody. Yeah, I don't think I've missed anything yet. Lots and lots of comments about the clicking, though. Okay. Revital says, how can I make all the smart lights that connect to Alexa appear in my Android Auto and not just what I've connected between Alexa and the Philips Hub? Revital, that's a question outside my knowledge base. So one, I haven't used Android Auto. I don't even know, is there an Alexa app for Android Auto? I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that question. Boy, that's a big one. I don't know the answer to that. My recommendation, honestly, for a lot of the consumer side of smart home things, the consumer side of the Echo Show devices, would always be to reach out directly to the customer service folks at Amazon.whatever your locale is, and give that a try. They should have more knowledgeable, better response people than the guest that I'm going to give you. Okay, so I wish I had a better answer for you on that one, Revital, but I just don't know. Habuma says, testing up front is always good, but I found that the best way to find bugs in your project is just to push it live. And instantly you'll find all the things that are wrong. I can think of 2 other instances where this happens quite frequently. When you're writing a detailed document for work, you can ask 100 different people to review the doc and find all the things, but it's not until you publish that to the people that are going to criticize or have some impact on that document that you will find all the typos and all the issues and all the errors. It requires that. There's another example of this too, where I've run into this, where it's not until you make the thing available to everyone. Oh, blog posts for me. I've had numerous reviews with PR and legal and colleagues and everyone else, and they're like, "Yeah, this blog post is awesome." And it's not until you like publish it that people are like, "That all of that is dumb. This is a mistake. This is wrong." It's fantastic. And another thing similar to this, Abuma, that I've seen online is that if you're ever not sure of what the answer, like you're teetering between 2 possible answers, all you need to do is go on like Reddit or some other place and share your opinion. Just say, "Hey, this is how I feel about this thing. This is the way it is," and you will find out very quickly what the other approaches to that problem or thing are. Posting a wrong answer on the internet is the best way to find out what the right answer is. So don't say, "Hey, what is the right answer?" Say, "This is the way you do it," and you'll find out very quickly that there is a bunch of other ways to approach that problem. People are very kind that way, although their words won't be. Okay. Startup says they never noticed any. Startup Santana said they never noticed any change in my audio when I switched to the screen sharing, which is good. Oxygen Box says, we just learned this morning that you can just add preview to your skill name and you're covered for all crashes. Yeah, Habuma says same applies for writing books. Yeah, it's not until you have published the book and pressed it into print. Gavin Watson says, if a developer has 10 bugs in their code and they fix 5 of those bugs, how many bugs do they have left? And the answer is 27. That is correct. And then Brian Tarbox wants to know if there is a September Alexa event. To give you guys some history on this, previous years, I think almost every year since Alexa has existed, there has been a September, we call it a fall device launch, fall device event. I've not heard anything about it. That being said, I'm not normally in the loop about those kinds of things because it is, for the most part, not a developer event. It is primarily a consumer device launch. And so they don't keep the developer people in the loop as much as they might. So my expectation is that there will be one, but I have no knowledge about when or what or anything. I'm completely out of the loop on that, but I'm going to mark this question because I feel like I should know at least when that event's going to be so that all of you can know about it and be there. And so between me and my good friend Tamsin hiding behind the scenes, we will figure out what that date is, and hopefully we can share that as soon as it's public. I would imagine if you jumped on Twitter right now and searched for it, if someone knows, everyone knows. But I don't think anyone knows yet. Yybrid on YouTube says, when programming, do you mainly use documentation or tutorials or Stack Overflow? And I think the answer to that is it depends, which is the best answer ever to give to anyone when they're looking for a specific answer. So when I think about how do I learn our stuff, there's a number of ways that I go about it. I think that I lean into the tech docs quite often because they have the official documentation on what an API call looks like or what a specific aspect of the JSON input's going to be or something like that. So the tech docs should and almost exclusively have all of that information. Where I run into issues is not about the Alexa stuff. It's much more about like some weird thing I'm trying to do in JavaScript, or I'm trying to make an API call outside of the Alexa ecosystem, right? And in those cases, I tend to look towards other documentation. So like if I'm calling someone else's API, I'll go look at their documentation specifically. Stack Overflow is good. I like Stack Overflow as a concept overall. But I find that, with coding, there's like 100 ways to do everything. And so it's not always one of those things that I can go there and be like, oh, here's the way. And in many cases, I find like someone's got like a one line of code answer. And I'm like, oh, that's perfect. I want to use that. But in order to use that one line of code, I've got to bring in 12 more libraries, and I've got to change the architecture of my application to allow a number of other things to happen. So I tend to not take the kind of one-off advice like, hey, someone asked a question like mine. Here's an answer that might work for me. I tend to either, I think I do more like GitHub diving. So if I can think of an example where I've seen somebody else do something, or I think I know, I work with a bunch of people that are all also coders. I'll be like, oh, you know what? Amit did this thing. I remember that. Let me go look in his GitHub repo and see if I can find how he accomplished that problem. That stuff, like I want working code where Stack Overflow isn't necessarily working. It's just the snippet, and it doesn't have all the context that comes with like what else goes with this. So again, not talking down Stack Overflow at all. I think it's an incredibly valuable tool that every developer should use, but it doesn't always, sometimes it creates more work for me than I want, I guess is the answer. Okay. Fangelm on Twitch said, is there an Amazon time type for 12-hour versus 24-hour? Short answer, no. I wish that there was. I wish there was a way for me to configure that, but no, there is not. For those of you that don't know, there is a built-in slot type called Amazon.time that allows you to say, hey, the user is going to provide me a time like 6:32. And they're asking if they can have a 12-hour. So 6:32 p.m. works just fine. But they're saying that they only want it to be a 12-hour versus a 24-hour. So no, I'm not aware of any way to change the Amazon.time built-in slot type to 12 hours. You could, if you really wanted to, just build a number slot that takes the hours 1 through 12, or 1 through 12. But if you're still looking for like a 142, I thought that Amazon.time would take an AM and PM. I'm wrong. All things that you learn as you go. That is Amazon.time. Yeah, so it works with both. So maybe you're having some conflicts that you don't like, but you can say noon, you can say midnight, you can say 6. But what you don't get, and I think this might be what you're running into, is if someone says 5, do they mean 5 a.m. or 5 p.m.? And it probably by default assumes 5 a.m. I don't know. So maybe it's just a matter of making the slot type more robust. But you can definitely say 2:15 p.m. and it'll give you the time of 14:15. That's what it'll give you. So maybe that's what you're asking, is that you want it to return to you a 12-hour time rather than a 24-hour time. And that gets trickier and messier. So yeah, no, it does not do that today. My short answer is correct. And what they said, is that if they just say 5 or 6, what does that really mean? And you could try to use the context around you, but that may not be enough either. TradeLast, who is on our awesome Alexa team here, has said, if you find errors or have suggestions on developer docs, please use the feedback tab. For those of you that may not be familiar with that, I can I'll share my screen and get all crackly again, but I'll show you what he means. So I'm here on a Tech Doc page for the Amazon.time slot. You can see these are the examples that I was referencing just a moment ago. Actually, am I actually sharing? Yeah. Okay. So you can see that these are the examples that I'm sharing. But over here on the right-hand side, there's this really nice feedback tab that allows you to say, hey, this page is missing this information, or hey, I have a problem with this, or whatever. I don't know that I would recommend asking for feature requests like, hey, I wish you would make it a 12-hour versus a 24-hour or whatever. I think that's better used at user voice. But this is a way to let people know if you find issues or errors on the tech docs, this is definitely the thing you should do. So back here, stop streaming, stop sharing screen. Okay. Let's see what else we've got here. We've got 10 minutes left. Yeah. So David, the way David Curley asked, how would that work anyway? It would have to be ambiguous. No. The trick for me is I think about all the different ways that we can do slot validation, right? So if let's say I build my own slot and the slot has names of animals in it. I know there's a built-in one for that, but let's just say there's names of animals or names of football teams or something like that. And the user says something that's in the slot. We can do validation to actually say, well, no, we need them to say something that's actually in that slot. Now, we can do this a number of ways. There's some built-in dialogue management stuff that'll let you do that, but you can also just compare it to your entity resolution. I'm using a lot of words here, but you can check and see what entities were resolved in your code against that slot. And if you didn't get any resolved entities, then they didn't match anything that was in your slot. And you could push back and say, hey, I actually need you to give me the name of a football team or a baseball team. I had a skill for a while called Games Back that had a list of the Major League Baseball teams in a slot. And if you didn't say one of those, then I pushed back and said, hey, that's not a baseball team. Please give me the name of a Major League Baseball team. And so if you would say like New York Jets, which is a football team, it would just say, hey, I heard you say New York Jets, but that's not a baseball team. Which team do you want? So it feels like there's the potential to introduce some sort of slot validation where if the user says something like 5, Alexa could auto prompt them to say AM or PM. Like if we do end up with that ambiguity, we could introduce some kind of validation against that to say, oh, well, I don't have enough information. Did you mean AM or PM? And then we get more clarification. So that would be pretty cool. I don't think it exists today. I'm going to go back to your question though, because this is a cool thing to ask for. Where did the question go? There you go. Okay. So David, that's how I think it would work, is that there would have to be some sort of dialogue management validation process that would sit on top of it. But as every developer will tell you, date time math, any kind of programming that revolves around date and time is a near impossibility. It's so hard, and there's so many exceptions and so many rules, and it's really, really quite challenging. So I feel your pain, and I will talk with the team about looking into ways that maybe we could modernize that slot. Brian Tarbach says, time is always tricky. My Premier League skill tells you the times for games in your local time zone. Not the easiest thing to get right. I agree with you. In fact, we had Karthik on last week. Karthik is based in India, and India, there's a few other places that do this as well, but India has some time zones that are off by half an hour. So for me, office hours starts at noon Eastern time, but for him, it started at 9:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time because it's a half hour off. And I'm not sure why they decided to do that. I'm sure it has something to do with sun and daylight and whatever, but yeah, they're off by just a half an hour. So it's not even just that you can do a simple like addition, subtraction on hours, like each time zone, and they specify this in the GMT settings, right? Is it 1.5 hours? Is it, I think there's some that even will go as far as 15 minutes off. But yeah, daytime math is impossibly hard for coding. So I feel your pain. Fangelm says, also, if I was asking for a morning time, then I could assume 5 a.m. And if I'm asking for an evening time, then I could assume PM. Brian Tarbach says, yeah, crossing midnight is also very hard. A startup says right now it's 10:24. Yeah, so you're a half hour off also. You must be in the same time zone as Karthik. W. Georgia, what are you referring to? You say, yeah, I have that too in Space Marauders, and it isn't firing either, but I don't know what the firing is. And Dana Voice says that refers to the September 2021 hardware event and the Learn a New Sound feature. All right, it's very possible that this was announced September 2021, but I feel like I'm usually on top of that stuff. And I've played with it and understand how it works and plugged it into a routine. And I know at least for when we released like the dog barking one or like the preset ones, I set it up where any of our devices, if it heard a dog barking, it would say, Mabel, stop barking. And that's the name of my dog. And so we always found it was fun because she barks every time the doorbell rings or whatever. And so we thought it was funny that all the devices were like, please stop barking. Slot management. Gotcha. Okay. So you're using the Amazon.time in your slot management and still not having any success with getting the vagueness. Is that what you're saying? I think that's what you're saying. Create a custom sound. So I'm posting this link, but as we tested a moment ago, it doesn't seem to be working right now. But Fangam, if you were looking for the official Amazon doc on how to do it, I just posted that again. And Dana Voice provided the link for a future update will allow you to teach Alexa to identify new sounds. But that came out in last fall, I think. So it should be ready by now. All right, I think we've come to the end. We're within 4 minutes of the end, and I'm glad you guys all joined me today. Again, really great questions. I think it's so cool for me to be able to see just all the different angles you guys are coming at Alexa from and the things that you're building. And I'm looking forward to chatting with many more of you about the skills you're building and the process you've run into. And as I've mentioned before, I'm finalizing a doc I'm writing about all the challenges there are in our developer console, the web-based version, and some of the changes that we might hope to see there. So I'm hoping to see a lot of amazing new progress in the relatively near future for some of this stuff. Okay. It looks like I've gotten everything. I'm gonna get myself just a couple of minutes back. I don't know anything about the upcoming event yet, but as soon as we know, Tamsin and I will look into it. We'll find the answers we're looking for. With that, I'm going to thank you guys all for tuning in. I will see you all next week, where we'll have our guests here to talk about ISPs, paid skills, and and product discounts. So make sure you join us, and we'll see you all next week. Take care.